Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Diana and the Book Hunt. Let me start off this video by apologizing to you guys. I am so sorry that I haven't been posting anything for over 2 weeks, but I was struck by laryngitis, so I completely lost my voice. You can actually hear it probably that it's still not where it's supposed to be, but I really wanted to record a video for you because I've had so many books that I want to share with you and also so many ideas for videos that I want to continue making, so I really want to start to pick it up where I left off. And I'm going to be sharing with you today a couple of new releases that I read in January. I got this idea for the video already at the end of 2021 when I saw that in my audio library I was going to have quite a few new releases. And I'm quite a bit of a mood reader. I've mentioned this before, so I've picked up only books that I was genuinely really interested in at that time. Most of them are romance books because I was really on a romance rush in January. There is one mystery book in the midst, but I was quite happy with the result because in January I managed to squeeze in 7 new releases. One of them is a mystery, the rest is romance books. So I just can't wait to dive in to this video with you because it was quite a successful reading stint for me, and I'm really excited to share these books with you. First book I'm going to talk about is Love at First Bite by Anna E. Collins. I was really genuinely very excited to pick this book up when I saw what the premise was because I've never read a book which involves an interior designer and an architect. So I was really excited to pick this one up, and the premise also sounded really fun. The story is about Danny, who was supposed to get married to Sam. They were engaged and were supposed to get married in a couple of days' time, but she found out just before the wedding that he cheated on her with their real estate agent. So what Danny decides to do, kind of in an act of revenge, is buy the plot of land opposite of Sam's house and build a spite house. And by spite house, which means is really build a house which will block his view. She'll rent it out as an Airbnb, which will drive him nuts. And also she'll decorate it in specific ways, which will trigger also specific reactions from him. And what she does is she enlists the help of an architect from the place where she works. His name is Wyatt, and he's also the love interest in the story. They kind of strike up a co-workers with benefits relationship at the start, and that kind of evolves within the story. Like I mentioned, the premise of the book is so fun, and I thought that I was really going to like this book, that it was going to be at least a 4 or 5 star read for me. But unfortunately, it kind of fell flat for me because I didn't feel the chemistry between the 2 main characters that much. It kind of left me feeling like Danny was more focused on getting revenge than really kind of moving on from her situation and developing her feelings towards Wyatt. So that's why I gave the book 3 stars. It was quite a fun read. It's also quite a quick read. So if you're in the mood for something just quick, quirky and fun, pick it up. But just don't expect it to be a wow story. It was fun. It's definitely worth your time. But like I mentioned, it's not a wow story. Book number 2 on my list is by Anne-Marie Walker. It's called Lucky Leap Day. And again, I was compelled to pick this book up because the premise sounded so fun and so cute and so intriguing. And again, it has a very cute kind of an illustrated cover, so I was compelled to pick it up. It's one which is about a girl, Cara, who decides to go to Dublin with her then boyfriend, but they break up just before the trip. But then she decides to just go by herself because she shouldn't just miss the opportunity to visit Dublin just because she broke up with her boyfriend. It's supposed to be like a long weekend trip in February. And she kind of has a very misfortunate arrival. She arrives at the airport in Dublin. They lose her bags. It's pouring. She gets all wet, and her kind of saving grace comes in the face of Finn, who is an Uber driver. He picks her up and they start this friendly conversation together, and he kind of tricks her into meeting him again because he likes her. So she meets him again. They go first to a museum and then they go to a bar where she gets completely drunk. And it's Leap Day, it's the 29th of February. So there is a tradition there in Ireland where women get to propose to men on Leap Day. And after this whole situation at the bar, she wakes up next to Finn, accidentally married already. Not even just, there's not just a proposal, but there's already a marriage between the two. And that's where the story kind of picks up. The premise of the book is really cute. I have to say, it was really, really cute. But that's kind of where the whole story stops for me. I genuinely, I think this is the only kind of dud out of the list, because I had expectations to get this cute, quirky, feel good story, but it just left me feeling absolutely nothing. And I got really frustrated because Finn was described the whole time as this amazing guy only based off of his Irish accent, which kind of sucks. I mean, if you just focus on one quality, which is not, it's not even a quality, you kind of live with that, with the accent you have, right? So it's not even something that you excel at because it's kind of a character trait or whatever. So I kind of felt, yeah, nothing for both of the characters. And I did feel something for Finn, though. I kind of like sympathy or whatever, but it just didn't work for me. The whole plot of the book didn't work for me. I also didn't expect where it led in the end, how it developed, the story, the plot. So yeah, this is the only two-star read for me out of this list. I didn't really enjoy this story. It's probably not a bad story for someone who doesn't have maybe the same expectations as I did. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend this story per se. Just check it out on Goodreads, check out the reviews, see if there's someone who has a different opinion than mine maybe. But yeah, for me, it just didn't work out. As always, there's been some technical issues. I just spent like 2 or 3 minutes rambling about a book and I found out that I wasn't recording. But anyway, let me just continue on. The next story that I'm going to talk about is called Maid in Manhattan by Lauren Lynn. Layne? Layne or Lynn? I don't know how you pronounce your name. I genuinely love the cover of this book. It's illustrated. It's very understated, but very, very cute. I know that a lot of people in the bookish community don't enjoy seeing the illustrated covers, but I really find them cute. So I was compelled to pick this book up. And there's also a couple of tropes that I really tend to enjoy that compelled me to pick it up as well. There's Grumpy Sunshine, there's Forced Proximity, there's Enemies to Lovers. So I really, really, really wanted to pick it up. The story is about Violet, who is a socialite in Manhattan. She's the protege of this old rich lady. Her name is Edith. She owns a company which needs to be passed down because she's going to retire. And unfortunately, her only heir, her son, passed away. So what happens at the start of the story is Violet finds out that Edith has found out that she has a grandson that she didn't know about. So really, she really wants to get to know him and to see whether he's going to have interest in inheriting her business. But when he comes in, he's from New Orleans, so he is not the typical Manhattan kind of man who is expected to take over this billion-dollar company. So she enlists the help of Violet to kind of bring him up to speed, to kind of change his appearance so that he looks more like the type of person who is going to be running a billion-dollar company. And yeah, that's where the story kind of starts. So when Violet actually meets Kane, they kind of have an instant dislike towards each other. And that's why it's an enemies to lovers story, because they really, really don't like each other at the start. But what I really did enjoy about this story is that the premise of the book is really that it's supposed to be Kane who is undergoing changes in his appearance and his mannerisms and the way that he speaks. But in the end, it turned out that Violet is the one who is changing the most because of their interactions and the situations that they encounter together, and that she sees that she's really surrounded by people who are maybe not the best people to be around. So I really enjoyed that part of the story, and the chemistry between the characters, the banter, that was really, really great. I love that about the story. But there's one thing that really kind of impacted my enjoyment of the book, and I kind of knocked off a couple of stars because of that, off of my rating. We don't really find out what kind of company Edith is running. So we don't know really what kind of company Kane is supposed to be inheriting. And that's why we also don't know what kind of motivation Kane has to actually start working at that company. And that really bothered me because that's like one of the key things within the book, and we don't really find out what his motivation is to really start working at that firm. So I had so many question marks within the story about that, and that kind of left me feeling a bit bereft. So I gave it 3.5 stars. I did really enjoy it. I'm going to recommend it to you that you pick it up. But yeah, that's the thing that kind of irked me the most about it. I've told you in previous videos that the next book on my list is one of my most anticipated releases for this year. It's Colleen Hoover's Reminders of Him. And it's probably the best book that I read in the month of January, I'm not going to lie. It was just marvelous, and I knew it was going to be an emotional read. It didn't disappoint me in any way. It did surprise me in some ways. I'm going to try to explain myself without spoiling too much. There are certain things that Colleen Hoover does within her stories that people tend to expect, but in this book those things are not present. I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm just not going to mention what it is, but that kind of surprised me because I was also expecting something to happen that she usually does within the books, and it didn't happen, but that did not impact my enjoyment of the book. But let me just tell you what the story is about. The story is about Kenna, who has spent 5 years in jail. At the beginning of her sentence, she gave birth to a daughter, and she was forced to give her up to the fraternal grandparents. When she was done with her sentence, she desperately wanted to reconnect with her daughter. So what she did is she moved to the small town where her daughter lives, and already on the first night back, she goes into a bar and she meets Ledger. Ledger is the bar owner, and he's immediately very intrigued by Kenna. He feels like a very certain connection with her. But we find out already at the beginning of the story that he's probably going to be one of the people who is never going to help Kenna reconnect with her daughter. So there's a very big conflict there, and the story progresses from there. The story was so emotional. It was just so beautifully written. And I have to say that Kenna writes letters within the book. I'm not going to tell you to whom, so I don't spoil anything, but those letters were just breaking my heart piece by piece with every word that I read. It was just so beautifully written. And the slow burn within the book, I just loved it because I tend to love slow burns in general. It was just such a special story. I didn't bawl. I didn't kind of cry my eyes out at this one like I've done with previous Colleen Hoover books, but that didn't bother me. It was just such a special story. It left me feeling so many different emotions, and I was thinking about the story quite a while after I had finished it. So yeah, a definite 5-star read. I recommend it. Pick it up whenever you can. You'll love it. Next up is by Keeland's The Summer Proposal. In previous videos, I've also mentioned that this is one of my anticipated releases for the new year, and I was a bit anxious to pick it up because I have kind of hit and miss relationship with this author's works, but this one I genuinely really loved. It's one which I gave 4.5 stars to, but I'm rounding it up to 5 because I'm still thinking about this book with very many positive emotions. So that kind of says it all about it. If it just leaves you smiling and thinking happy things, and you really connect with the characters very well, I don't see why it should be anything less than 5 stars. So yeah, let me just tell you shortly actually how the story starts. I don't want to spoil what it's about. I just want to tell you the start of the story so you kind of get your interest piqued about it so you can pick it up. The story starts where Georgia, who is this self-made businesswoman, she has a very interesting business which involves flowers, and she's on a blind date. At least she's waiting for her blind date to arrive at this bar, and this gorgeous guy comes in and she assumes that that is her blind date. So he sits next to her, they start a conversation, and he immediately tells her that he has only 15 minutes, which is kind of odd. It kind of puts her off in the beginning because she's like, who comes in on a date for 15 minutes? That's just bullshit. But anyway, they start this conversation and he says, let's just fire off some questions so we get to know each other as quickly as possible and see where it goes. They have amazing banter, amazing chemistry between each other. And then when the 15 minutes are up, she finds out that he wasn't her blind date after all. He just saw her from outside and found that she's just beautiful. So he really wanted to meet her. And that's their meet cute. That's how the story starts. I found that scene just absolutely amazing, and it really intrigued me to know how the story will progress, and I hope it does for you too. And I have to say, the tropes within the story, it's a sports romance. There is a love triangle within the book, but it was done so well in my opinion that I absolutely loved it. And the banter, the chemistry between the characters, it was just done in a very, very marvelous way. I wanted to finish this book in like one sitting. It was a real page turner for me. So yeah, it was definitely worth my time. I encourage you to pick it up. You will not regret it. Next up, I picked up Josh and Gemma Make a Baby by Sarah Reddy. I actually got an advanced reader's copy from NetGalley, so thank you NetGalley for allowing me to read this in advance. And I have to say that the premise of the book was really intriguing for me. It's a brother's best friend romance, and also there's trouble conceiving, so be warned about trigger warnings for this one. And obviously, as the title says, there is a baby that needs to be made within this book. The story is about Gemma, who is 32. She is divorced because her husband cheated on her, and she works for this motivational guru. She finds that she doesn't have a serious prospect for a relationship, so she doesn't see herself having a baby in the natural way soon, so she decides to go on the IVF route. But she doesn't want to get an anonymous donor for her baby, so she decides to enlist the help of Josh, who is her brother's best friend. The premise of the book sounded really cute and very intriguing for me, so I really wanted to pick this one up. And I did enjoy a lot of moments within the book. There were a lot of swoony moments thanks to Josh, and there were a lot of moments with a lot of fun banter between Gemma and a couple of friends that she meets on this support group for IVF treatments. But there was something that really put me off in this book. At the start of the book, actually throughout the book, there's quite a few instances of this. Gemma gets put down a lot by the people in her life, her family, her immediate family, her friends, her mother. I mean, her mother says such hurtful, preposterous things to her, such misogynistic things as well. I mean, I couldn't believe that a female writer would put a female character through such an ordeal, and I almost DNF'd it at like the 20 or 30% mark because there were so many things happening that I was like, come on, this can't be happening to this woman. I mean, I felt so bad on her behalf, and it really left me feeling my laptop is dying, sorry. It left me feeling really frustrated for the main character, but I'm happy that I pushed through. There were quite a few redeeming qualities within the story that left me feeling like the book deserved another chance. I'm happy that I finished it. I gave it 3 stars, but be warned that there's quite a few scenes where Gemma gets walked over. So that kind of sucks. Anyway, it was a fun read. I love Josh. Josh is like the ultimate book boyfriend, and his story is also one which kind of broke my heart, but got mended together in the end. But yeah, it was a nice story, but again, be warned about those things. The last book on my list is the only non-romance book within the list. It's a murder mystery. It's called The Maid by Nita Prose. And I have to say that this book was quite intriguing, and I really enjoyed it up to like the 70% mark within the book. But let me just tell you what the story is about, then I'll go into whether I liked it or not. The book is about Molly, who is not your regular type of woman. She doesn't have any social skills, and she doesn't pick up on social cues very well. She doesn't read intentions of people very well either. She's very literal, and she has the best intentions herself, but she also doesn't know how to communicate them very well. And she works at this five-star boutique hotel, where she gets involved in a murder mystery when she finds one of the richest people, one of the richest guests that visits on a frequent basis. She finds him dead in one of the hotel suites. And the murder mystery, the way that it's handled, was very intriguing. I found that, again, I was in kind of a situation where it was a page turner. I really wanted to find out what happened, who did it, and kind of also see how someone will help Molly investigate, but also kind of break down people's intentions, because she's not able to do it for herself, but she is really smart and very kind of tuned in to things that are happening. So it was a very interesting story, mostly because Molly is such a colorful character within the story. But then after the 70% mark, the story kind of went downhill, and the ending was kind of meh, kind of not really the best. So I expected a bit more of the ending. That's why I gave it 3.5 stars. 3.5, 4 stars. I kind of, if the ending had been a bit better, kind of tweaked, I would have given it 5 stars. It was such a promising book, and I did really enjoy it. Molly, like I mentioned, was such a colorful character, so it does deserve to be picked up. Maybe it will work better for you than it did for me, but yeah, I did genuinely enjoy it, and I'll see that I pick up more mystery books, but because I do tend to really like them, but they kind of get overshadowed by all the romance that I read. But I'm going to make it a point to pick up more mysteries from now on. So these were the 7 new releases that I read in the month of January. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for sticking around. And also stay tuned, because soon, very soon, if my voice allows me, I'm going to be posting my January wrap up. I had quite a few books that I read in the month of January, so stick around for that video if you want to know how many books I read. Please subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Instagram, like my video if you liked it, and also leave any recommendations down below for new releases that I may not have on my radar yet. I hope to see you very soon. Happy reading, take care, and bye-bye.